Hey, what's going on? It's Kaufman is Alive YouTube channel. I look at comic books new and old. Today I'm looking at an old comic book magazine. This is from December 1979. I'm looking at the Comic Reader number 175. So this was a publication that ran from 1961 till 1984, and it was really the first of its kind, a comic book fanzine that just gave lots of information about upcoming comic books and current comic books, reviews, all sorts of cool stuff in here. And I was able to find this in a dollar bin, and I didn't really know what to expect picking it up, but I found some pretty cool stuff in here. They've got these covers that are actually rejected pieces from other comic books. The front one is by Don Newton and Terry Austin, and the back one is Alan Hanley and Dennis Jansen doing the Plastic Man cover. There's actually a letter from a reader later on in this issue talking about how they don't appreciate how they're using rejected artwork for their covers, but we'll read Comic Reader's response to that as well as we get into it. But this is a really nicely put together fanzine. We've got a table of contents here. You can get their subscription, all the information on how you can order. And then right off the bat, we get DC news. And they just kind of go through and bringing you up to date on all the news coming up in comic books. And there's some pretty interesting stuff in here. We've got Legends of the Batman issues will be drawn by mystery artist John Byrne, doing his first work for DC, which did happen in early 1980. So it says Hawkman's first appearance as a regular strip in World's Finest is a Hawkman-Adam Strange team-up, which reintroduces Trixie McGregor from the Jack Kirby Deadman sequence in Forever People. And there's Starman's origin appears in Adventure number 469 and 470. We've got Len Wein and Jose Garcia Lopez are doing DC Comics Presents Superman Deadman team up, which takes up where the last Deadman left off in Adventure Comics. Got Jim Starlin, he's returning to work for DC here, providing some covers for some upcoming books. Joe Kubert has done a uncharacteristic mystery cover for Ghosts number 89. So then we got some, there's some Marvel news here. It says Marvel's just starting to publish a Doctor Who comic in the British division. Captain America 2, the second Universal TV movie, is going to air November 23rd and 24th. We've got Marvel Team Up 100. It's going to be a double-size 75-cent issue written by Chris Claremont and penciled by Frank Miller, which will feature Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. So just some, while I was going through this, I mean, just the names that just pop up. It's like, oh, Chris Claremont's got a comic out, you know? Like, Sal Buscema's got a comic coming out. Frank Miller, Len Wein. I mean, just like all these great names putting out comics. It must have been a pretty awesome time to be collecting comics in the late 70s, early 80s. So there's some more comic news here from some other comic companies, Comley Comics and Charlton Comics. Get the Archie Comics, Harvey Comics, which was publishing like Casper, Richie Rich, Sad Sack. They've got all the covers here, all in black and white. This whole issue is, all these comic readers are just in black and white newsprint. This one I got's in really nice condition though. There's no bent pages or missing pages, anything like that. We get a media review here, which is pretty interesting. It's talking about Batman has been optioned again by the same people who had the option before but were unable to sell it to investors. Bat Films Inc. is headed by Benjamin Melniker, who used to be an executive vice president at MGM, who is executive producer. The producer is someone we all know, former DC Comics writer Michael Uslan. Uslan is quoted as saying, "The Batman and Robin film," interesting they're calling it Batman and Robin film, "will be done straight. We are trying to get as far away from the TV show as possible. A first draft screenplay exists, but extensive revision is expected. The aim is for a Christmas 1981 release, which should work out fine if Superman 2 isn't delayed until then." So, and of course, we know it would take another 10 years before the Batman movie even came out. So here we are in 1979, and they're already trying to get this movie out by 1981, which did not happen. But I think this is probably the same project that did eventually get launched. I mean, it was very far from the TV show, and I know the ownership of the Batman movie license went through lots of hands, but very interesting to read here. Then we've got DC suing Filmation, a former producer of the Shazam TV show and owner of the ISIS character DC based a comic book on, over copyright infringement of the Aquaman and Plastic Man characters by Filmation's Manta and Morway and Super Stretch cartoons, which aired last year as a part of the Tarzan and the Super 7 show on CBS. DC won a permanent injunction against Filmation when it was found that Filmation had violated DC's copyrights. It's saying that those characters were too close to Plastic Man and Black Manta. And then there's a little editorial that says, from the writer here, that says, he thinks it's interesting to me that the Super Stretch, who was a black character, and Manta, who were found to be too close to DC's characters when DC's characters have been prototypes for many characters done by many comic book companies over the years. So pretty interesting point there. Talks about the Captain America 2 movie coming out again. Talks about Johnny Carson. He really wants to leave the Tonight Show as soon as possible, which is pretty funny. Gene Roddenberry is suing Paramount over the ownership of Star Trek, which could cause some bizarre things to happen to the promotion of the film this Christmas. It's pretty interesting. Then we get some more news from some other comic companies. Comic Strip Circus here is kind of a obituary to Al Cap, who just passed away. He was the writer and an artist of the Little Abner strip that went from the early 30s, I think, until just recently when he passed away here. We get the TCR mailboat. TCR is the abbreviation for the comic reader, as it was known. So some letters here from some readers. I think there was some interesting stuff in here. Trying to look. Oh yes, this is the guy talking about the covers. He says another low point for he's talking about the fanzine here. "I'm afraid are your covers. While I appreciate pro art such as Dave Cockrum's back cover on number 171 and his interior work, I don't think the TCR is the place for artwork who's had their covers rejected by Marvel to do the old 'so my covers aren't good enough for you, eh? Then I'll give it to TCR. They'll use it' routine. Original pro work, yes. Rejections, no." And then we get a response here from editorial saying, "To tell the truth, if we haven't told you that those covers had been rejected by Marvel, would you have disliked them as much? And hey, were they not rejected in any case because they were badly drawn? They were not rejected because they were badly drawn in any case. The reasons had more to do with cancellation, complications of coloring, and switching the emphasis of characters. Marvel paid the artists for them, so there was no revenge motivation. We need good artwork. The stuff hasn't been seen anywhere before, and we'll continue to run them when we get the chance." So a nice rebuttal there to the criticism. And we get some interesting stuff about the Captain Marvel lawsuit between Marvel and DC. This is actually some pretty informative stuff here by this Frank Hayes who wrote in. He says, "You were asking about the lawsuit between Marvel and Myron Fass about the use of the name Captain Marvel as a trademark. Fass published a few issues of his own Captain Marvel comic book in 1966. he folded, but surfaced again when Marvel launched ITS versions of Captain Marvel in Marvel Superheroes late in 1967, and there was some sort of lawsuit. The good news, bad news is I can't find a site for any case involving Marvel Comics Group, management company, Myron Fast, Countrywide Comics, or any other name I'd expect to be associated with the case in the usual sources. Then he goes into some trademark law. He says it all comes down to two things involving the trademark rights to the name Captain Marvel. First, Fawcett started using the name in 1940, abandoned it in the 50s when they settled with DC, which means Myron Fast wasn't violating Fawcett's trademark rights. Second, however, Marvel had been using the name Marvel to sell comic books since 1939, which means their common law trademark rights to the name Marvel predates Fawcett's claim to Captain Marvel. Not knowing what the claims on each side of the lawsuit were, and not even knowing who sued whom, there are three likely possibilities for legal actions. 1. Marvel could have sued Fast. 2. Fast could have sued Marvel. Or 3. Fast could have opposed the trademark registration that Marvel filed just 5 weeks before Marvel Superheroes number 12 hit the stands. Marvel filed to have the name Marvel registered as a trademark for comic books, which would have effectively established the company's claim to the name Captain Marvel. Apparently, whether it was 2 or 3, Marvel won. The Marvel trademark was registered finally in June of 1969. The image and logo of Marvel's Captain Marvel were filed a month after MSH number 12 was published and were finally registered in December of 1969 and June 1970, respectively. Marvel finally tied up the rights to the name itself, Captain Marvel, in any form as a trademark in January 1974. And then he goes on, he says, it's worth noting that in the late 60s, there was a hot time for trademark suits in comics. Batman, of course, was a hot number, and DC filed a number of infringement suits against folks who were infringing their licensing rights. During this period, DC finally filed to trademark each minor feature as Wonder Woman in the JLA. Marvel was registering such past fancies as Captain America, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four, along with Captain Marvel, of course. These things come in waves, I guess. I hope this clears up any puzzlement you may have had about the case. And then the editorial actually says, Fast's last comic with Captain Marvel presents The Terrible 5, number 5, dated September 1967, with Marvel Superheroes number 12, dated December 1967. That's close enough to think that Marvel was doing all the publicity I read was about how Marvel had stopped Fast from publishing. Also, the winning of the Captain Marvel in any form as a trademark in January of 74 is what caused DC to extract the original Captain Marvel line from the covers of Shazam, replacing it with the world's mightiest mortal, which must have confused plenty of kids thinking Shazam was the world's mightiest mortal. So, pretty interesting stuff about the lawsuit between Captain Marvel and DC and Marvel. Then we get the TCR Top 100 comic books, which is some pretty interesting stuff to look at now. These are the top comics, and it says all priced, publisher format, special features, price if not 40 cents. So, well, number 1 is ROM number 1 by Marvel. Number 2 is X-Men number 128. Number 3, we got the Micronauts Annual number 1. Micronauts number 12 is number 4, so Micronauts pretty popular back then. I'm assuming kids were pretty into that. We got Avengers number 190, number 5. Number 6 is The Amazing Spider-Man, number 199. Number 7, Spectacular Spider-Man Annual number 1. Then we got Fantastic Four number 8. That's issue number 213. Star Wars number 30 is number 9, and number 10 is Conan the Barbarian number 105. So pretty interesting top 10 there. A lot of licensed properties in the top 10. Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Men, pretty popular. Spider-Man, of course, always has been one of Marvel's top selling books. You go back here, we've got Captain America's all the way back at number 29. We've got DC Comics Presents, number 16 is number 36. I think is that the first DC comic? No, Warlord, number 28 is number 30. So DC being completely outsold by Marvel here, it looks like. Superman number 342 is 39. Green Lantern's number 40. Action Comics is 41. Justice League of America is 42. Batman number 318 is 43. So yeah, DC just picking up the rear here for sure. Got let's see here, all the way back at number 100 is Sad Sack and the Sarge by Harvey Comics. So, and all the Harvey comics are just like number 94 to 100 there. So, then we get a lot of comic strips here. There's Dick Duck Duck Dick, which I think is by Jim Ingle, who I think is one of the publishers of this book, the TCR. Bullet Crow. Then we get some reviews here. This whole review, there's actually this whole one-page review is on the Super Friends comic, and it's just about how the Super Friends comic is actually a much better comic at this point than Justice League of America. And it's, you know, it's a kid's comic. It's not even in the main continuity, but it's still a much better comic to read than Justice League of America at this point, which is pretty funny. So we get et al. So there's some more news here. We get some more strips that are being, looks like they're being reprinted from the Menomonee Falls Gazette here. Modesty Blaze. We get some Superman by Seigel and Schuster being reprinted in here. The Seekers. Another strip. You can buy original art from all these different places. Starhawks getting reprinted here by Ron Goulart and Gil Kane. We get some more TCR Mailboat, which is actually some letters from some creators. David Michelinie writes a letter in. Bill Mantlo, Patty from the Marvel Publishing Division. We've got John Byrne here writing a letter. Some pretty interesting stuff, some funny stuff. Dave Michelinie is saying that he just appreciates TCR. He always reads it. He always learns something. Bill Mantlo this is funny. He says, I was totally disgusted with Angle and Falia's column on TCR number 173. The depiction of the upper torso male frontal nudity brazenly flashed from one person of the same sex to another was not only perverted and twisted, but potentially dangerous. There's no telling what effects that photograph could have on an impenetrable reader, impressionable reader. And then Patty is saying how they've designed this new female vision, and it says, in the interest of maintaining the tip-top quality that you have come to expect from the House of Ideas, we have had one of our Cracker Jacks designers whip out a design for one of the many characters you mentioned as a matter of trademark. We'll probably get around to all of them sooner or later. Nothing we own is too trivial to be copyrighted and trademarked to its grave. To maintain Marvel quality and continuity, we hope that you'd notice the following features of this super-duper design. 1. Adherence to the established male costume design, while at the same time showing 2. As much skin as possible. It's red skin, which means we could portray her stark naked and the nerds at the Code wouldn't know the difference. 3. Traditional brick shithouse figure. 4. Pouty central lips. Sexy. 5. Hair. Whether the costume design warrants it or not, preferably long. It's sexier. 6. Spike heels, very sexy, also shapely legs. Hopefully she'll break an ankle and become another helpless Marvel wimp. Hoping this helps to keep you posted on the modern and obviously unchauvinistic policies regarding women at Marvel. Some very funny stuff here from some writers. And then we get John Byrne, this is a very interesting article. He's talking about all the physics involved and the philosophy involved with Superman's powers. He's saying basically Superman does not have superpowers in the manner we think of them. He is not super strong, or he would not have big muscles. If you are strong enough to push out of orbit, you get the opportunity to develop such a splendid physique. He doesn't have supervision since he is able to see events that transpire on distant planets as they happen. In other words, he can see faster than light. He doesn't have super hearing since he is able to respond to events such as a gunshot long before the sound waves would reach him. Thus, he hears faster than sound. What then is the actual nature of the powers he repeatedly manifests? Simple, like Gil Hamilton and Larry Niven's ARM series, Superman is a limited telekinetic and certainly a telepath clairvoyant. Limited because, like Hamilton's invisible arm, Superman thinks of these powers as super strength, super hearing, super sight, etc. When he lifts a building by one corner, physically impossible, the building would fall apart from the stress. He's actually telekinetically levitating it. Likewise, when he punches against a planetary surface, thus moving the planet as opposed to boring through it, he is exercising his considerable psi talents. So a really interesting take from John Byrne here. Really interesting stuff. This is just a really awesome time capsule here. We've got all the issues that are coming out here by Marvel. Incredible Hulk number 245 is coming out. We've got Marvel Preview number 20. Let's see, ROM number 4. Tales to Astonish number 4 by Roy Thomas, John Buscema, and Frank Giacoia. We've got X-Men number 131 by Claremont, Byrne, and Austin. This is Phoenix helps a young mutant who is in turn helps the X-Men escape from the Hellfire Club. Also, the climactic battle between Phoenix and the White Queen. Byrne and Austin did the cover, and they've got the cover right there too. So, Fantastic Four 216, Iron Man number 132. Go to the DC Comics, what I noticed is that Jerry Ordway is writing like at least half of these comics. Thanks for watching the video. Again, if you ever see these, I highly recommend them, especially if you're into comic book history like I am. I learned a lot just by reading this one issue. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.